The canopy detonates before he even finishes the thought. A crack, not loud, sharp, violent. The cockpit fills with white and force. The seat punches upward. Spine compresses, vision tunnels, then silence. Wind. Cold air slamming into his face at 600 knots. He's spinning. The horizon flips, sky, ground, sky again. Then the chute snaps open. A brutal jerk, shoulder wrenches back, breath gone for a second. Below him, nothing clean, nothing flat, just dark ridge lines, broken rock. No roads, no lights, no friendly territory. Smoke curls in the distance. The jet didn't make it. He looks left. No sign of the other parachute. Gone. The radio is quiet. Too quiet. His boots hit rock harder than expected. Knees buckle. He rolls, dust in his mouth. Metallic taste. He stays down for a second, listening. Wind cutting through the ridge. No voices, no engines, not yet. Then training kicks in. Not fear, not panic. Movement. He reaches for the survival vest. Checks the pistol. Still there. Beacon. Still intact. He doesn't look back at the crash site. Not once. Because if he can see it, someone else can too. Southwestern Iran is not forgiving terrain. It isn't desert in the way most people imagine. Flat, empty, predictable. It's worse. Layered ridgelines, fractured rock, steep elevation shifts that punish every step. Valleys that trap sound, peaks that expose silhouettes. At night it turns black. No ambient light, no depth perception. Just shapes and guesses. At roughly 7,000 feet, the air thins just enough to slow you down. Breathing becomes work. Movement becomes calculation. And that's where he landed. Not by choice. When a fast jet like an F-15E goes down, the event doesn't stay isolated. It triggers a cascade. Signals, heat signatures, radar anomalies, debris patterns. Within minutes, multiple systems, military and civilian, start building a picture of where it happened. Which means one thing: you are not alone for long. Iran's internal security structure is dense, layered, and fast to react inside its own territory. The IRGC doesn't need perfect information. They need a direction, a valley, a ridgeline. From there, they flood the area. Vehicles first, then dismounted units, then locals incentivized, sometimes aggressively, to report anything unusual. In this case, there was more than incentive. There was a bounty. That changes behavior. Civilians become sensors. Movement gets reported. Strangers get noticed. Silence becomes rare. And then there's the electronic layer. Anything that transmits, anything at all, can become a liability. Radios, beacons, even brief signals can be detected, analyzed, narrowed down. Not instantly, not perfectly, but fast enough to matter. So the equation is brutal. You are injured. You are alone. You are inside hostile territory that reacts quickly. And every decision you make, move, stay, transmit, hide, has a cost. There is no safe option. Only less bad ones. And time is not neutral. Time works against you. The first smart thing he did was leave the wreckage. That sounds obvious. It isn't. After an ejection, the body wants the opposite. Stay low, stay still, let the pain finish arriving. The landing shakes everything loose. Back, hips, knees, shoulders. A man can feel functional for 30 seconds, then try to stand and realize his legs are not fully cooperating. That's how people get caught. They stop where they land, they stare at the smoke, they try to make sense of what just happened. He didn't do that. He got up and moved. That matters because a crash site is a giant arrow in the landscape. Burning fuel, shattered metal, torn earth, maybe fire, maybe black smoke lifting straight into cold air. Even if nobody sees the aircraft go down, somebody sees the aftermath. And once search teams reach the debris field, the logic is simple. Widen the circle. Check downhill, check stream beds, check obvious cover, check places an injured man would choose if he was thinking like an injured man. So he went somewhere harder. Up. That is the second smart thing. People love to talk about finding cover, but cover is not one thing. In mountain terrain, the wrong hide site can trap you, expose you at first light, or channel searchers right toward you. A low depression may conceal you from a drone, but leave you boxed in by foot patrols. A ridgeline gives visibility but silhouettes you against the sky. A cave sounds ideal until it becomes the first place everyone checks. There is no perfect answer. There is only terrain that buys time. A rock crevice high on a mountain buys time. Not comfort, not safety, time. And time was the currency that mattered most. Because the rescue problem had already split in two, the moment those parachutes drifted apart. One man came down where he could be found quickly. That changes the urgency, but not the difficulty. It tells rescuers the ejection was survivable. It tells them at least one locator is active. It gives them a partial picture of the descent pattern, the wind, the terrain, the likely separation. Useful, but partial. The second man is still missing, and now every minute stretches the map wider. Darkness helps him hide, but it also slows the people trying to reach him. That is the trap in combat search and rescue. The same terrain that protects the survivor also punishes the rescue force. He had to bridge that gap alone. That is where training stops sounding like a slogan and starts looking like a checklist executed under stress. First, create distance from the crash. Second, break line of sight. Third, control your signatures. That last part is where amateurs usually lose the plot. People think hiding is mostly visual. It isn't. It is thermal, electronic, acoustic, and behavioral. You can be invisible to the naked eye and still give yourself away by moving at the wrong time, transmitting too long, or choosing a position that makes you predictable. A survivor on the ground is not only hiding from eyes, he is hiding from patterns. That's why the beacon matters, but only if it is used with discipline. A locator device is not magic, it is a compromise. You need it because rescue forces need to find you, authenticate you, and build an extraction plan around your real position. But every omission creates risk. Maybe not immediate, maybe not precise, still risk. Anyone telling this story as if encrypted bursts make a man untraceable is selling drama, not reality. The real skill is restraint. Transmit short, stop, move if needed, wait, reassess. A man who survives behind enemy lines is usually not the one with the most equipment. It's the one who understands when not to touch the equipment. That is a hard instinct, especially when injured. Imagine the physical state for a second. Dust in the throat, sweat cooling too fast under the vest. Hands shaking, not from panic necessarily, but from impact, blood loss, adrenaline dump. Cold. Every time he shifts his weight, there's a new complaint from the body. A stab in the lower back, a dull pulse through the knee, maybe a shoulder half numb from the parachute opening shock. The smell is dirt, cordite residue, scorched insulation carried faintly on the wind from the crash basin below. Somewhere metal is ticking as it cools. Somewhere else, maybe far down in the valley, engines. He is not thinking in paragraphs. He is thinking in fragments. Not there. Too exposed. Wait, listen. Again. And this is where the story becomes less romantic and more brutal. Survival often looks boring from the outside. No speeches, no heroic posture, just a wounded man making small, correct decisions for hours. Don't cough if you can help it. Don't move when the moon clears the ridge. Don't answer noise with noise. Don't let thirst push you downhill. Don't let pain make you sloppy. That last one is vicious. Pain narrows judgment. It pulls the mind toward immediate relief. Better ground, easier breathing, a more comfortable position, warmth, water. But what feels better in the next 5 minutes can get you seen in the next 20. Good training teaches a person to distrust that impulse. Comfort is not the goal. Remaining unfound is the goal. And based on the outline of this story, he understood that. Now let's talk about the rescue side, because this is where the script you started with becomes both most interesting and most inflated. A real recovery package for a downed aircrew member in hostile territory is not one thing. It is layers, sensors, authentication, orbiting aircraft, command nodes, possible diversionary actions, fuel planning, threat assessment, alternative landing zones, comms architecture, medical capability, extraction routes, timing windows, weather, enemy movement. Every layer has to function while the clock is running and the tactical picture keeps changing. That is why I take a clear stance here. The myth of the lone dramatic rescue is nonsense. These recoveries, when they work because an entire machine starts moving at once. Quietly first, then violently if needed. An overhead drone, for example, is not just a flying rifle, it is an eye, a relay, and sometimes a deterrent. It can watch trails, identify approaching vehicles, track dismounted movement, and feed that picture back to people building the rescue plan. But even here, people exaggerate. Drones do not create omniscience. Mountain terrain hides movement. Shadows lie. Thermal contrast changes. Civilians, militia, regular forces, at distance and in darkness, these can blur. Every engagement decision carries risk. So the idea that anything moving within a neat radius is simply cleared and engaged is exactly the kind of line that sounds powerful in a video and falls apart under serious scrutiny. Still, the broader point holds: persistent overwatch can buy a survivor precious hours. And hours were everything, because the enemy side had advantages too. Local knowledge, interior lines, more people, faster ground access in some sectors, the ability to flood the area with rumor and pressure. A bounty, if that part is true or even partially true, would matter less for elite rescue forces and more for the human terrain: shepherds, drivers, villagers, men on motorbikes. A man moving alone in rough country becomes harder to hide when every set of eyes might convert a sighting into cash, status, or protection. That means the survivor's movement window gets narrower with time. Night helps, dawn hurts. Dawn is always cruel in these situations. The cold lifts slightly. Shapes become legible. Helicopters become easier to spot and easier to shoot at. Routes that looked concealed in darkness suddenly reveal how exposed they really are. A hide site that worked for 6 hours may not work for 6 more. So ask the right question. Why didn't he keep moving? Because movement is a gamble. A wounded man on foot is slow, noisy, invisible at the wrong distances. Every ridge crossed may improve one problem and worsen 3 others. If rescuers already have a decent fix, the best move may be to disappear into stone and become a waiting problem instead of a moving target. That is not cowardice. That is fieldcraft. The intelligence piece, deception, rumor, back-channel manipulation, belongs in this story too, but with caution. Intelligence operations rarely unfold with the elegant precision people imagine. They are messy, partial, sometimes contradictory. But could a parallel effort be used to distort enemy search behavior? Absolutely. Feed the wrong route. Suggest a ground movement that doesn't exist. Pull attention toward a road network while the real survivor stays cold and quiet in elevation. That is plausible, more plausible, in fact, than some of the cinematic hardware claims. Because deception does not need to fool everyone. It just needs to waste enough of the right people's time. That's a critical distinction. In a rescue window, confusion is oxygen. Make a local commander look in the wrong valley for 2 hours. Make a checkpoint tighten on a road nobody's using. Make patrols prioritize vehicle routes while the real problem is fixed in rock above them. That alone can change the odds. Now picture the extraction itself, not as a clean heroic swoop, as friction, rotor wash hammering loose grit into the air, dust hitting faces and optics, pilots trying to judge rock, slope, and clearance in darkness or gray first light, men on the ground carrying not only weapons but a medical problem, radios clipped low, hands signaling. Somebody slips on shale. Somebody shouts one word, maybe 2. Engines thump against the walls of the valley. Every extra second on the ground feels stolen. That is what real extraction looks like. Ugly, fast, incomplete. And then comes the part people often forget. Leaving is sometimes harder than arriving. Aircraft break. Ground conditions lie. A landing zone that looked usable from above turns soft, uneven, deceptive. Nose gear sinks, rotor margins tighten, load plans change. Fuel becomes math with consequences. You may have the survivor in hand and still be sitting inside hostile territory with daylight coming and too much metal on the wrong patch of earth. That is a nightmare scenario, and nightmare scenarios are expensive. So yes, the broad lesson here is believable even if many details in the original script are overstated or outright cinematic. Recovering one trained airman can require a wildly disproportionate amount of force, coordination, deception, and risk. Not because one person matters more than strategy, but because abandoning your people shatters the trust that makes the whole system work. Pilots fly differently when they believe rescue is real. Special operators move differently when they know nobody is written off cheaply. That belief is not sentimental, it is operational. A military that cannot bring its people home eventually teaches its people not to take necessary risks. That is poison. So the machine turns itself inside out for one man in the mountains. Not out of romance, out of doctrine, out of credibility, out of hard necessity. And all the while, at the center of this giant apparatus, the survivor's job stays brutally simple. Stay hidden, stay alive. Do not make the rescue harder than it already is. It wasn't the F-15, not the drones, not even the rescue force. The most important part of this story is simpler than that. One man disappears into the mountains, and an entire system bends to find him. People like to frame war as firepower. That's lazy thinking. Modern warfare runs on something else: trust. A pilot doesn't fly into contested airspace because he thinks he's untouchable. He flies because he believes if everything goes wrong, someone will come get him. Not fast, not clean, but they will come. Break that belief once and it spreads. Not visibly, not immediately, but it shows up in hesitation. A second too long before pushing deeper. A mission cut shorter than planned. A decision softened when it should be sharp. And over time, that hesitation costs more than any lost aircraft. Time is the real battlefield here. Not the mountain, not the valley. Time. The man on the ground is trying to stretch it. The rescue force is trying to compress it. The enemy is trying to collapse it. And time doesn't move evenly. The first few hours feel manageable. By the second night, everything slows down. Thinking, movement, judgment. That's when small mistakes start stacking. A wrong movement, a signal too long, a position that felt safe an hour ago now exposed. Nothing dramatic, just enough. That's how people get found. Technology helps, but it doesn't save you. A beacon doesn't make you invisible. A drone doesn't control the terrain. Encryption doesn't erase risk. It just shifts the odds. And in places like that, odds are everything. Because nothing is guaranteed. The only thing that consistently works is discipline. Not doing the wrong thing. Not transmitting too long. Not moving when you don't have to. Not choosing comfort over concealment. It's quiet, unimpressive. But that's what survival looks like most of the time. And then there's the part nobody talks about enough. Leaving is harder than arriving. Extraction is where everything tightens. Aircraft have to commit. People have to move. Silence breaks. For a short window, everything becomes visible. And that's where things fail. Not at the beginning, at the end. Strip it all down, and the lesson isn't complicated. A wounded man buys time. A system tries to reach him. An opposing force tries to close the gap. 3 timelines moving toward each other. No control, just pressure. When it's over, it doesn't feel like a victory. There's no clean moment, no clear line where everything suddenly works. Just less noise. The aircraft leave. The rotor wash dies down. The mountain goes quiet again. And one man is no longer there. That's the outcome. Not the operation, not the cost. Just that. He didn't get captured. Everything else, the planning, the risk, the coordination, that's invisible once it's done. But it matters. Because the next pilot who straps into a jet won't think about the details. He won't think about drones or signals or extraction routes. He'll think one thing: if it goes bad, they'll come. That belief doesn't come from words. It comes from missions like this. Messy ones, expensive ones, the ones that almost fall apart. But don't. Because in the end, it's not about perfection. It's about whether the chain holds. From the man on the ground to the people coming for him. If it holds, he goes home. If it breaks, he disappears into the same terrain he landed in, and nobody comes back for a second try.